Thank you, choir. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you, Gregory. Nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. I have always loved this mission statement, formed in 1996 when Barbara Peskin and Ann Tyndall were newly installed as senior co-ministers here. To me, it names so succinctly and beautifully why we are here, our reason for being as a community. And so some years ago, I thought it was a good idea to have t-shirts made with our mission statement on it. That way, folks could wear them when they marched in the 4th of July parade or out about town, and we could promote our church and share our powerful message. Shortly after the t-shirts were printed and distributed and I was wearing one, my then 8-year-old asked me, how many R's are in the word nurturing? 2, I answered somewhat impatiently. Why? It turned out I'd left out a crucial R in the design of the shirt so that instead of nurturing the human spirit, it appeared phonetically that we were neutering the human spirit. Those of you who have those shirts at home, consider them a collector's item. It's taken me all this time to be able to put that before you. Enough time has passed. We do aspire to nurture rather than neuter the human spirit. Collectively and with humility, we provide soul sustenance. We nurture the spirit in celebration of the beauty and meaning of life in community and through connection. We nurture the spirit for the work that needs to be done, repairing the world. Our Jewish kin claim this as our sacred human responsibility, tikkun olam. As poetic as our mission statement is, it leaves me wondering, and I don't think we ask this question enough, what does it mean to make the world whole? What does a world made whole look like? Do we as individuals share that same vision for such a world? And if not, could we ever and should we even try to come to consensus? With our mission statement, we affirm the truth that we are one with the earth and with each other, and that healing one leads to healing the whole. As Unitarian Universalists, recognizing the worth and dignity of every person means upholding the individual wholeness of each. We balance this affirmation of individualism with the understanding that we are interconnected with each other and with all of life. Repairing the world comes through our individual soul repair, joined with our collective action to heal the world. Our mission affirms the ever-continual process of soul repair and world repair into which we can enter at any point of the continuum. Wholeness in our souls leads to wholeness in the world, leads to wholeness in the soul, and so on. A lovely sentiment, but making it real is far from simple. Nurturing our spirits in this frenetic, chaotic, fractured world can seem impossible. Spending any time at all nurturing our spirits feels indulgent in the midst of so much urgent need. Yet there is a pervasive form of contemporary violence, as Thomas Merton names, that we perpetuate when we do not attend to the needs of our spirits, thinking there's no time to waste on such selfish navel-gazing. Merton went on to say, to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything, is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our own inner capacity for peace. Truly, the only way to heal the world is through our own soul healing. So much demands our immediate attention, and we're right to feel alarmed. John Bartok of the Green Team reminded us last week of the desperate emergency of the climate crisis we all live within. Overshadowing every social injustice is the countdown clock of an uninhabitable planet. Escalating inequality, unmitigated consumerism, threats to our democracy, emboldened white supremacy, rising global authoritarianism, toxic patriarchy, and misogyny. None of these issues is separate. We can't number them in importance or priority. We can't tackle them one by one. We can only confront them by understanding how they overlap and compound one another. The UU Common Read, Justice on Earth, illuminates not only the intersection of all forms of oppression with climate injustice, but reminds us that the way to repair the world and dismantle oppression is to work holistically, embracing the complexity and refusing to sacrifice the needs of one oppressed group for another. We can find common cause and collaborative approaches if we are working in solidarity. The Clean Energy Jobs Act, which many of you signed on to, expressed your interest and support in last week, and there's still, I think, forms back there on the back table if you missed that opportunity. This is an example of advancing environmental and economic justice together, investing in clean energy and providing training and jobs to address economic inequality. Faith in Place, our shared offering recipient, is another example. I just opened a piece of mail from them this week explaining their Eco Ambassadors program, which empowers youth leadership on environmental justice issues through a multicultural, racially diverse program accessible to youth regardless of income level. This is where I find hope. This is where I see a glimpse of a world made whole. In the abundance of broad coalitions made up of people of diverse perspectives and including communities most impacted to address the complex and intersecting issues of our time. We repair the world by finding our wholeness in shared power and collective liberation. I, along with several other UCE members, attended the YWCA Equity Summit earlier this month, hosted at Beth Emmet. The keynote speaker was Dr. Gail C. Christopher, who is described as an award-winning change agent, widely recognized for designing holistic strategies for social change. She encouraged the assembled to imagine a future where the belief in a hierarchy of human value is dismantled. She talked about our need to shift from the idea of inclusion, which is about allowing more people in, to expansiveness, which is about breaking down the boundaries that keep people out. She talked about narrative change, honoring our innate need to be connected, and building our capacity for empathy, self-compassion, and compassion for others. She was describing the beloved community, a world made whole, one in which every person has an equal voice and equal value. At the same summit, I heard trainer and facilitator Kelly Covey talk about social change through narrative, and that relationship building is equity work. The week prior to that, at the UUA Mid-America Regional Assembly in St. Louis, I heard Reverend Karen Hutt, a prison chaplain, describe the power of listening deeply as an act of justice. Over and over, I'm reminded that relationship building is essential to nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. Listening to one another and identifying our common purposes, our shared values, doesn't just feed our spirits, it's the fuel for revolutionary movements of liberation. But we can't wait for our relationships to be fully developed to begin the work of making the world whole. We must learn to build transformative relationships on our way to the beloved community. We can do this by practicing one-on-one conversations in the church and out in the community. We can begin by learning together about the intersections of injustice. We can continue on the journey by showing up for marginalized communities, attending and listening at city council meetings, school board meetings, rallies, and marches, as well as shared meals and worship services. As our reading by Grace Lee Boggs reminds us, relationship building takes time, and so does social change. I've been hearing a lot lately, are we doing too much? Are we spreading ourselves too thin? Are we a mile wide and an inch deep with our efforts? And if so, does it prevent us from making any real progress? Can we focus on one project or issue and go deep rather than being siloed into divergent efforts? But what if we don't have to decide between wide or deep, focused or dispersed? Breaking down the silos isn't about choosing this issue over that one, but recognizing the connections between our efforts and with the resources we have, building pathways of common cause across them. Truly transformative growth happens in multiple directions. We grow up as individuals, finding our identity and purpose in the world. We grow deep in our spiritual sustenance, and we grow broader and stronger through our network of connections. Adrienne Maree Brown, in her awesome book, Emergent Strategies, I highly recommend it, finds models of solutions to our most complex problems abundantly illustrated in nature. She calls this biomimicry. She describes the resilience, resistance, regeneration, and decentralization of dandelions. Writing, the dandelion flower head can change into a white globular seed head overnight. Each seed has a tiny parachute that allows it to spread far and wide in the wind. Dandelions are often mistakenly identified as weeds, aggressively removed, but are hard to uproot. The top is pulled, but the long taproot remains. Anyone that's tried to pull up those weeds, just like digging in and trying to get that taproot, is very hard. She goes on, dandelions don't know whether they are a weed or a brilliance, but each seed can create a field of dandelions. We are invited to be that prolific. Hope can be found in the form of grassroots collective movements for liberation. I'm thinking of the Poor People's Campaign, or more locally, joining forces for affordable housing. It's hard to recognize the power of these movements sometimes. That's why they're called grassroots. They're at our feet and below the surface, spreading and connecting underground. Many of you are part of these networks of change. Even though it may not feel like anything's happening, there is an infrastructure of root systems connecting, winding, nourishing, providing the foundation of powerful life that emerges and sustains the very breath of existence. I don't think we can choose one issue to address at a time. There's too much to do, and each issue may seem a separate concern, but it's all connected. We need to trust in the process. We need to start where we are and pay attention to our individual growth, our true self-expression, our wellspring of meaning and nourishment of the Spirit. We need to recognize our connection to one another as well as to the whole of life in order for a truly revolutionary change to take hold and transform the world from the ground up. I have a vision for a world made whole as each of these coalitions moves together for life-giving transformation and liberation, expanding and merging into a web of mutuality that truly embraces the globe. From our own spiritual center, we can take part in this transformation by reaching out to those around us, building multicultural community, a shared vision, one that challenges and enhances our own limited view. Through our connections with others, we begin to envision what could be possible if we worked together, understanding that each person matters, each person's needs are important. What if each of us had what we needed and shared what we had? What if each of us set down the need to accumulate more and focused on the need to restore the earth and our spirits? I'd like for us to begin today, right now, right here, reimagining our shared vision of a world made whole. We can't build it if we can't imagine it. So I invite you to close your eyes and join with me in imagining what a world made whole looks like. Who is there? How does it feel? What's happening in this world made whole? Bless you. And what's missing? I encourage you not to get stuck on whether it's possible. Just try to imagine what could be. What are you doing in this world of wholeness? How are you participating and contributing? Hold this picture in your mind. And now, returning to this room, opening your eyes, I invite you to turn to the person sitting nearest you, hopefully someone from another family. If you're sitting with a person who's not a reader or a writer, please help them out, maybe groups of 3. I'd like you to share with one another one word or phrase that describes this world made whole that you envisioned. I'll call you back in about 1 minute, so. Now, each of you has in your order of service, some of you are already ahead of me, a little Post-it note, green or blue. Write down that word or phrase that you shared with the person near you of a world made whole. And then I'm going to invite you, we don't have time for all of you to come forward now, but I do invite and hope and beg for you to please put it up on our A World Made Whole is up here before you leave today. I'd really love to see and gather a picture of what we together see as a world made whole. We are co-creators of the world. We are each bound to each other in our universalist conviction that the fate of humanity and all of us and all of life is interconnected in a web of mutuality. What affects one affects us all. This connection is love, not a weak and anemic love, but a love that is the action which emerges from knowing our profound oneness. Love not just between individuals, but within, among, and beyond us all. This is the force that can repair the world, make it whole. This is the source of which we are all a part. Renewed by our commitment to our mission, may we continue to nurture our spirits, our own and each other's, and from the wholeness within, may we together build a more loving and beautiful world. Amen.